What if everything you were taught about good and evil was incomplete? What if the divine throne isn't just made of light, but of fire that burns on both sides? Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will shake the foundation of everything you believe about spirituality. Why ancient traditions hide that God contains both light and darkness. Here's a question that haunts every spiritual seeker. If God is all-powerful and all-good, where does evil come from? I'm not talking about the Sunday school answer. I'm talking about the real, raw truth that makes religious authorities uncomfortable. Because buried in ancient texts, across multiple traditions, there's a secret that changes everything. A secret about a throne made of fire. Let me take you to 3 spiritual traditions that dared to explore this mystery. First, Christianity speaks of God's throne surrounded by eternal fire, blinding light, absolute glory. Then there's Zoroastrianism, the ancient Persian religion that shaped Western thought more than most people realize. In Zoroastrianism, fire isn't just divine light, it's transformation, destruction, purification. It burns away what's false. And in Jewish Kabbalah, the most mystical tradition in existence, this throne is described as the convergence point of all divine forces, including what we call shadow. See the pattern? The throne isn't just light, it's fire, and fire transforms everything it touches. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. What if God and evil aren't enemies, but complementary aspects of one creative force? This isn't blasphemy, it's what these traditions whisper when you dig deep enough. Zoroastrianism speaks of Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of light, but also acknowledges Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit, as necessary for cosmic balance. Kabbalah goes even further. It teaches that the Qliphoth, the impure shells, are part of the tree of life. They're God's shadow, the part he had to hide so creation could exist. Think about your own spiritual journey. How many times have you felt that something doesn't add up when they tell you God is only love and goodness, yet the world is full of suffering? Maybe it's because the complete story was never told. Maybe because accepting that the divine contains everything, light and darkness, order and chaos, is too dangerous for religious institutions. After all, if God is the origin of everything, he's also the origin of what we call evil. And that puts enormous responsibility in our hands. We can no longer blame an external demon for what happens. We have to look within. We have to face our own throne of fire. Here's what matters. If evil isn't a separate entity, but part of the divine design, what does that change about your spiritual path? Stay until the end, because we're going deeper into this mystery than you've ever gone before. How Kabbalah reveals the secret that Christianity fears to teach. Let's start with the most radical tradition, Kabbalah. Because Kabbalah doesn't sugarcoat anything. It says openly what other traditions only hint at. God isn't just light. He contains everything. And to create the universe, he had to withdraw. This movement is called Tzimtzum. God contracted, created a void. And in that void, creation was born. But what remained in the space where God no longer exists? Shadow, the Qliphoth, the shells. The Qliphoth are described as the impure husks of the tree of life. They're the residue of divine light. What was left behind when God stepped back? And here's what's mind-blowing. Kabbalah teaches that these forces aren't enemies of God. They're part of him. They're the necessary shadow so the light can shine. Without the Qliphoth, there are no Sephiroth. Without evil, there's no good. Everything exists in balance. Everything comes from the same throne. This directly contradicts what you were taught in church, synagogue, or mosque. You were told that evil is external, that it comes from the devil, from demons, from temptation. But Kabbalah goes deeper. It says, evil is in God. It's part of him, and it's part of you too. Because you were created in his image. If God contains light and shadow, so do you. And your spiritual journey isn't about destroying the shadow. It's about integrating it, about recognizing that your power lies precisely in the ability to choose light, even knowing that darkness exists within you. Think about your own life. How many times have you felt anger, envy, desire for revenge? How many times have you had thoughts that shamed you? Kabbalah frees you from that guilt. It says, this doesn't make you less divine. It makes you human. And it's precisely in accepting this duality that you find your true spiritual power. When you stop running from the shadow and learn to dance with it, you approach the throne of fire, the place where God and evil meet. Christianity borrowed from these ideas but sanitized them. It made Satan a fallen angel, a rebel, someone separate from God. Evil was externalized, became someone else's fault. But think with me, a God is omnipotent and created everything. Who created Satan? Who created the free will that allowed the fall? The obvious answer is God. But admitting that would be recognizing that the divine throne has two faces. And that's dangerous, because it takes control away from religious authorities and gives it back to you. What if your greatest enemy isn't out there, but in here? In your fear, in your anger, in your unintegrated shadow. That's the truth these traditions are pointing to, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. What if Zoroastrianism understood the divine paradox before everyone else? Now, let's go back in time. Over 3,000 years ago, in ancient Persia, one of history's most revolutionary religions was born, Zoroastrianism. And you know why it matters so much? Because it created the idea of a totally good God fighting against a totally evil God. This radical dualism influenced Christianity, Islam, Judaism. But there's a detail that changed along the way, a detail that Western religions preferred to hide. In original Zoroastrianism, Ahura Mazda is the creator of all. He's light, wisdom, truth. But Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit, isn't an external enemy that appeared out of nowhere. He's a choice, a force that exists because creation requires contrast. Without shadow, there's no light. Without chaos, there's no order. And here's the twist. Zarathustra, the Persian prophet, taught that both come from the same primordial source. The supreme God, Zurvan, infinite time, generated the twin cosmic forces. Light and shadow were born together. Now look at Christianity. It took this idea, but cut out the most important part. Satan became a fallen angel, a rebel, someone separated from God. Evil was externalized, became someone else's fault. But think, if God is omnipotent and created everything, who created Satan? Who created the free will that allowed the fall? The obvious answer is God. But admitting that would be acknowledging that the divine throne has two faces. And that's dangerous, because it removes control from religious authorities and returns it to you. Deep down, Zoroastrianism didn't hide the paradox. It embraced it. It taught that life is a cosmic battle between light and shadow, but that both are part of the same fabric of existence. Evil isn't an aberration. It's a test. It's transformation. And your mission isn't to destroy the shadow, but to integrate it, to consciously choose light, knowing that darkness will always be there, as part of the game. This changes everything, doesn't it? Because if evil is a necessary part of creation, then your greatest enemy isn't out there. It's in here, in your fear, in your anger, in your unintegrated shadow. And Zoroastrianism invites you to look at this without judgment, to accept that your inner throne is also made of fire, and it's precisely in this fire that your soul is forged. If this is resonating with you, drop a comment with the word fire. And if you want to keep exploring these hidden mysteries, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. How Christianity borrowed the fire but removed the shadow from the story. So let's bring it all together. Christianity, Zoroastrianism, Kabbalah. 3 different traditions, 3 different cultures, but all pointing to the same secret. The divine throne isn't made only of light. It's made of fire, and fire contains everything. Contains creation and destruction. Contains love and wrath. Contains God, and contains what we call evil. And the great truth these religions tried to show you, each in their own way, is that you can't evolve spiritually by running from your own shadow. You only evolve when you face it head on. Christianity taught you to fight against sin, against temptation, against the devil. But what if the real fight isn't against, but with? What if you need to talk to your inner demons, understand where they come from, what they want to teach you? Zoroastrianism already knew this. It showed you that light and shadow are twins, that the cosmic battle doesn't happen out there, but in here, and that your daily choice for light only has value because darkness is real, because temptation exists, because chaos is part of the equation. And Kabbalah, oh, Kabbalah was even more radical. It handed you the complete map. It showed that God withdrew to create space for you, and in that space, He left the Qliphoth. He left the shadow, but not as punishment, as a tool, because it's in the journey of crossing through the impure shells that you find the hidden treasures of your own soul. It's by diving into your shadow side that you discover who you really are, and who you can become. Here's what nobody told you. The throne of fire isn't in heaven. It's inside you, and every time you face your fear, your anger, your shame, you sit on that throne. Every time you choose light even when surrounded by shadow, you activate your divine power. Because being spiritual isn't about being perfect. It's about being whole. It's accepting that you contain everything. And it's precisely in this totality that your true strength resides. So here's the final invitation. Stop being afraid of your shadow. It's not your enemy. It's your teacher, your mirror, your opportunity for growth. The evil you see in the world, it exists because it exists in all of us. And the only way to transform the world is by transforming yourself, integrating your light and your shadow, sitting on your throne of fire and claiming your complete divinity. If this message touched you, leave a comment with the word throne. Like this video if it made you think differently. Subscribe to the channel if you want to keep exploring these sacred mysteries that religions have hidden. And share this with someone who also needs to hear it. Because the world needs more awakened people, more whole people, more people sitting on their own throne.